The year is 2017. Two 20-somethings, Georgia and Emma, team up to create a podcast. Have you tried yoga?
Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Have You Tried Yoga? I'm Georgia.
And I'm Fred. Sorry, I'm Emma. Hi!
Hello.
Welcome. Thank you to everybody who has been listening, rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts and iTunes, because I think, well, at least I can speak for myself, I've been pretty blown away by how much response we've been getting from people. And it's not just our families that are listening.
I know. Complete strangers have been commenting and letting us know what they thought about the podcast, and we've just been really blown away by it. Like, it's been amazing.
Yeah, so thank you everybody for listening. And we hope you enjoyed our last episode. I think it's probably pretty funny.
It was pretty funny. We're going to try and keep this episode fairly lighthearted, where we probably get a bit sassy, forewarning, but that's the whole podcast, really.
Yeah. So today's topic, or this podcast topic, is characters with chronic pain in movies and TV shows. We will probably do another episode later down the track about characters in fiction novels and celebrities, because there's enough within novels and celebrities to kind of make their own episode.
Absolutely.
So today we're doing on the silver screen, or the Netflix screen.
The Netflix screen. Let's be realistic.
Yeah.
Who leaves their house, man?
Who watches real TV? It's on a laptop always.
I know.
So you might be thinking, I don't remember ever really seeing anyone with chronic pain on a TV show or a movie, and you'd be pretty much right. I think, like, who is, like, maybe the one that comes first to your mind, Georgia?
House MD.
Yeah. So the amazing, is it early 2000s show?
I think so.
Mid-2000s show House with Hugh Laurie.
And it's a very entertaining show, and I have watched every single episode. I binged it when I got Netflix and they released the whole catalogue. We'll go into his character a little further on, but there's a lot of problematic content.
Yeah, and for him to be really maybe the only one that you're thinking of, that's really understandable, because in our research for this episode, we found that there are not a lot of movie characters and TV show characters with chronic pain. There are quite a few with disabilities, and some of them are represented well. Some of them are just complete stereotypes. Glee! But within those characters with disabilities, there's not enough info that we're given to know whether they have chronic pain as well. So we've really tried to just hone in on the ones that we can say definitively, like in their Wikipedia, you know, that it says they've got chronic pain.
Quite often there's like a glossing over of the fact of like, oh, they're in a wheelchair, and that's it. That's the whole story, and it doesn't think about other complications or other effects in their body. Like
we were talking about in the first episode, it's like you're in a wheelchair, so whatever happened to you is in the past, and you don't have any complications now apart from the fact that you can't walk. Like, that's the idea that is presented in those cases.
Absolutely.
Like Glee. So suffice to say, we're not going to talk about Glee today.
No.
So, and that kind of comes from even in researching this, trying to find the oldest or the first representation of chronic pain was really hard. And I think from our list, we can probably say a definitive chronic pain character only goes back to about the 80s, which is pretty bad.
Yeah.
80s, close to the 90s.
Yes.
And, like, I'm sure people are going to be yelling into their iPods or however they're listening to this. Do people still have iPods? I don't know. Phones. However they're listening to this.
How do you do, fellow kids?
Ugh, I'm hip and cool. Would you like some drugs? I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know what my train of thought
like
was.
some drugs. So...
Wait, I hadn't finished my train of thought.
Okay.
but I can't remember what it was.
You were talking about how we couldn't find older representations and people might be
Oh,
like,
yes.
oh, but what about X?
Yes. They might be like, oh, the Nosferatu movie, that totally, or Gone with the Wind, you know, some old movie. It shows, you know, chronic pain, and it would be like, we can't say definitively that it does. You could have an interpretation that that character does. You could write some fan fiction about it, but we're only talking about ones that you can definitively say, yes, they have a chronic pain condition.
Also, Google made it super hard to identify people as characters with chronic pain in the first place.
And why was that?
Well, we found things from like 2000s and 2010, but like didn't we literally type in like characters with chronic pain first and early on? And...
Yes, and like the first 3 hits are like for that movie with Mark Wahlberg, Pain and Gain. That stupid movie. I don't even know what it was about. But it has Mark Wahlberg in it, so I think it's stupid.
Whoops.
Like, that was the first thing that came up. A movie that is not about chronic pain. I think it's about bodybuilding or something.
I have no idea.
So Google let us down, and so you're kind of saying that there wasn't even anything recent.
Not really.
Because we're in 2017, and we had things from 2010 coming up. So the conversation isn't really happening.
No.
In books, it's another story. But in movies and TV, there's not that much representation. So this kind of comes into a bit of a... We'll talk about a few of the tropes that disabled people and chronically ill and people with chronic pain fall into. And it kind of comes through 2 main lenses, which is Paul Longmore, a disability activist, once said that characters, they're framed within the mindset of better dead than disabled. So, you know, that's where we often get a lot of portrayals of disability where the character dies at the end. And that also then comes into, did they live a fulfilling life, which is the idea of inspiration porn, which was coined by
Stella Young.
Yes, the late amazing Stella Young, who was an Australian disability activist. I always just feel like so sad that she's left such a big hole, because I felt like she was going to be our leader. You know what I mean?
She gave me a lot of hope.
Yeah.
And I really admired her tenacity and her unapologetic view and distribution of just reality.
Yep, for people with disabilities. If you don't know who she is, definitely look her up. She had a lot of writing that was on the internet, and she did a lot of Australian TV talk shows.
Yes.
And like political debate shows. She was really, really wonderful. And so she came up with this idea that saying, I'm not your inspiration porn. That's her TED Talk, isn't it? She also did a TED Talk.
Yes.
Yeah, and talked about how, you know, it's either you're better dead than disabled, so, you know, you're going to die at the end of the movie, or because you can't live anymore because, damn it, the disability ruined your life, or you rise above it.
Stella Young was saying, as Emma was trying to say before we had this weird noise, you're either better dead than disabled, or...
Sorry, I didn't realise you were leading to that for a segue for me to talk. My apologies. So you're either better dead or disabled, or that you are a piece of inspiration porn, as Stella Young talks about in her TED Talk. So that's sort of like, kind of like movie cancer, how it's like you beat the odds and you won that race, or you married that man, or what's another one? I don't know.
A lot of inspiration porn is like, this person does something excellent. So they ran a triathlon, or they found a scientific breakthrough through their education, and they did something beyond normal scope of human ability. And that means that people without disability should be ashamed of their like non-ability to do things that makes the world a better place, and that, you know, if a disabled person does something fantastic, it doesn't matter they're disabled anymore. But if they just get by, like, who cares?
Yeah, I find that happens a lot when we talk about, say, the Paralympics, where we have Paralympians, so that's the equivalent of the Olympics for people with disabilities. Stupid in itself. So like, oh my god, they swam that 100 meters and they have a disability. They're so amazing. You're an inspiration. I look up to you. Look what you've overcome. When in fact, those athletes. I went, name drop, I happened to go to a school with a Paralympian. Her name is Jackie Freeney. She also won Young Australian of the Year.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, it's very nice. We didn't really talk much in school, so she probably has no idea who I am. But
Oh, hi.
I'll just name drop her anyways. You know, for people to be like saying she's such an inspiration when it's like she was at the pool training just like every other athlete and Olympian, just as hard for most of her life to get to that point. It's not like, oh, you pushed through. It's like you're on equal par with a regular able-bodied athlete. So that whole idea of inspiration porn is really like irritating.
And I've directly come across it in my own life because I do quite well at uni and I work part-time and, you know, I do all the things because I enjoy them, and I've had academics at my university find out what's going on with my health and literally go, oh, but you get such great grades, like, oh, that's really inspirational. And you know that they're doing it at a place of like, I'm impressed that you have such a drive and a determination to live your best life. But what comes out is, oh, well, like, oh, you still manage, congrats, like, oh.
And it also puts the onus and pressure on someone who is not able to function that way. Their functionality base level is different. To be like, I got out of bed in the morning, yay! It puts pressure on them to be extraordinary.
And I actually really struggle with that. Like, I'm a massive perfectionist, and when I don't meet my own goals, I don't cope. And then when people bring up the goals I've beaten in the past, it puts me in this place of, am I not valid because I'm not doing excellent at uni?
Yep, and it creates a culture of type A personalities that are high achievers.
Yep.
Who are really hard on themselves.
Yeah, like you can go to uni or you go to work and you do your best and you do great work, but you come home and you put your body into a point that it's just exhausted and you can't do things that you enjoy. Like, it's such a toxic kind of mentality that I feel like is imposed on a lot of people.
Yeah, and I would say for the most part that reality is not shown.
No.
Yeah, and I would say, I can probably say maybe 2 of the ones on this list probably really accurately show that reality of living with chronic pain. So we're going to discuss them today, but before we do, is that cool? Did you want to add something?
Do, go for it,
I
man.
wanted to go through this hilarious list of disability tropes.
I'm keen.
Just because they're really hilarious.
We had a good laugh when we were researching them.
Yeah, and I think 1 or 2 of them have politically incorrect sayings, so I'm sorry, but it's sort of the outrage that you feel is inherent in the name being awful.
So yeah, a bit of a content warning coming up, that there will be some phrases or terms that are quite offensive, and we don't condone them. It's more or less that we want to discuss them openly and the fact that they're not okay.
And it's pointing out, so the idea of a trope is that it's something that appears again and again, and it's sort of almost a shell that you can just put a character into and they become that type of character.
Yeah, it's a prototype.
A stereotype. Yeah, and a prototype as well. So, and this kind of relates to chronic pain and just disability generally. So, here we go. Why don't we read? We'll kind of go. We'll bounce off each other.
Alrighty.
Okay. Abled in the adaptation.
Ambiguous disorder.
An arm and a leg.
Arm cannon.
You have artificial limbs.
Attention deficit. Ooh, shiny.
Blind and the beast.
Blind black guy.
Blind mistake. I don't know what that is.
Blind musician.
Blind seer. Oh my god.
They see things, but they're blind.
Yeah, I mean, that is rooted in Greek mythology, but also no.
Well,
no.
I go like neuroscience nerd. Like, they can perceive some things, but it's not blind seeing. But anyway.
Because you can't see into the future.
No, you cannot see the future if you're blind.
Blind weapon master.
Oh god. Bury you're disabled.
Let's just pause and talk about that for a second. Bury you're disabled.
Oh, they had a great life, but now they're disabled and they ended their life, and now we're going to have a dramatic scene about how it affects the family and how they're so sad, and a funeral, and...
Career-ending injury.
I just can't. Colorblind confusion. Yeah, because colorblindness is not the way they perceive it in media.
I don't get this next one. Crippling over specialization.
I don't know.
Whatever.
Crippling the competition?
Oh, making someone else disabled to get in there. That's like is it Nancy Kerrigan, the ice skating? This is kind of like when we were probably too young to remember, but there's this famous incident of this US athlete, like, kicking a competition
No.
or something with an ice skate.
Oh, Shay. Ow.
To try and win.
So the next one is Dark Lord on life support.
Just Voldy on a ventilator.
Why not?
Is that like Darth Vader? Or I guess anybody, but...
I think it's a villain on life support who's now disabled, and how can they be a villain or an evil person that ruins lives now they're disabled?
Or they got what's coming to them.
Yeah, because disability is a punishment.
Yep. I'm not going to read the next one. And then disability as an excuse for jerkassery.
House MD, what up?
Yep.
Disability immunity?
So you cannot become... maybe like a superhero.
Yeah.
Where you can never break a bone or something.
Like bullets don't hurt you.
So that makes you superhuman.
I mean, I could handle having that.
Again, disability negating superpower.
Like kryptonite?
Yeah, I guess so. Sorry, I'm not sure. Then disability superpower.
Yeah. Disability negating superpower. Oh, we've said that. Sorry, guys. Disabled character, disabled actor. Okay, I'm okay with that trope.
Yeah, but when has that happened?
Never.
Do we have one person
We
on our
have
list?
one person on our list who is playing a character with the same disability they have themselves.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen. And there's a big push to have it.
Yes.
Actually, because we're talking about chronic pain in our list and not disability generally, we're not talking about Breaking Bad, but there's an example of a disabled actor who is playing a disabled character.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have clear chronic pain. We haven't mentioned him.
I'm going to skip to disabled love interest because we're going to go into that today.
Yeah. Disabled means helpless. Ugh, every time.
Disabled snarker.
Dream-crushing handicap.
Oh, don't get me started on that one.
So many. Eunuchs are evil.
Game of Thrones, anybody?
Yeah. And?
Evil albino and evil cripple.
Evil albino. I say albino. Albino?
Albino? I think it's albino.
Is it?
I don't know.
Let's say albino as well. That just makes me think of the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
The albino that just whips himself.
Oh, that was scary.
Really?
I don't know. I found that very confronting.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Don't watch Outlander though.
Okay.
They like do a lot of whipping and they show you.
Eye patch of power is like evil people who happen to have like a patch on their face.
That's pretty cool. Fictional disability.
Oh, because like doll bludging and all of that stuff.
What else can we say? There's some of here that are just a bit weird.
The freak show, that gets me angry.
Like in is it literally called
The Freak Show?
Like American whatever story?
Yep.
Horror Story?
Yep.
Freak Show?
Yep.
What else? Genius cripple. So they might be disabled, but they're a genius, and I think this comes possibly from this idea of a mad genius.
Yes.
And then also, you can say possibly real life Stephen Hawking. People might think, let's do a character like the real person.
Glass eye.
Maybe, oh, you know, like Mad Eye Moody, how he has a glass eye, but it's like a special eye.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Can see through things.
The grotesque.
Like in a horror movie, how like someone's disabled and they just become this like horrific.
The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yes.
Disabled means gross.
And that original story, not the Disney version, is like 10 times worse because everything ends really horribly. Ugh. Like, people die. She doesn't end up with him. I'm pretty sure they all die in the end.
Yeah, great.
What else? Hiding the handicap.
Oh, yep. And then Hollywood autism and Tourette's. Don't get me started. I obviously have mentioned this, but I study psychology, and Hollywood perception of mental illness, especially to autism and Tourette's, is so incorrect, and Emma will agree.
But they're not mental illnesses, they're disabilities.
Oh, I should correct myself. Sorry, I mean neurocognitive disorders.
Indeed.
Sorry, that was terrible. That's not what I meant.
No, but that's okay, because you didn't mean it. You weren't legit thinking they were mental illnesses.
No, but I mean, you see these perception that because they have different ways of perceiving the world, therefore they infer they're crazy.
Yeah, and you just get I'm an awkward, white, shy boy who is really obsessed with this one topic and has no friends.
And it's usually maths, because,
Or computers.
Oh, God.
I mean, I work with students with autism and they are the most creative, non-mathsy people ever who are quite good at socialising.
Yeah.
Everyone has their challenges, but... and Hollywood Tourette's, it's always they swear a lot and that's all they show.
That is not how Tourette's works, guys.
Sorry, I saw the next one after Hook Hand. I can't feel my legs.
Okay. I can't feel my legs.
I can't feel my legs.
One of my best friends has issues with losing control of her limbs due to having multiple sclerosis, and the I can't feel my legs trope sets me off because I've seen how people have treated her when she's had numbness and she can no longer walk or stand, and everyone gets all sad when someone in the movie can't feel their legs because they were in a car accident, but the people in real life will just step over her and assume she's drunk.
Well, so she's fallen down because she can't feel her legs.
Yeah.
Because of sudden numbness or whatever.
Because of her disability.
Yeah.
But, people are like, oh, she's just drunk.
Yeah.
Or she's playing around. Do you know what seems fun? Covering my body with grazes and cuts because I lose control of my legs.
That's so awful that people would be like that. And I just think with me hysterically going, I can't feel my legs, it is just that total movie moment where someone's like, I'm totally fine, but I can't feel my... It's just the perfect dramatic moment that continuously happens.
Yep.
All of the time. What else? Little people are surreal. That kind of goes into Freak Show as well.
Peter Dinklage. I was reading about him the other day and how he was saying that he was incredibly poor for the longest time because everyone wanted to manipulate his disability to be the major plotline. Hilarious dwarf, or little person does crazy things.
And he's a leprechaun in every movie.
And he refused to play those roles and struggled to get by for years. And I'm really happy that he has managed to cement himself as a highly established and respected actor. And that his size doesn't come into it, and it shouldn't come into it.
Yeah, I've seen a few movies where it hasn't been about the fact of his height.
Yes, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah, but I mean, on Game of Thrones he does play a little... Wait, what's the correct term now?
I don't know.
Is it... Okay. Last I heard it was little person, so if that's wrong, I apologise
I think
profusely.
It depends on the country and the culture that they're part of.
Okay. Let's just say he was picked in the role of... Is it Tyrion? I don't know.
Tyrion Lannister.
Because that person is also of the same height as him.
Yes. And with the Tyrion Lannister character, he does an amazing job of barking at people who, make jokes about his height in a way that's not, please pity me. It's like, you need to step off. I'm an independent person who's got a normal life and this has nothing to do with it. And I really enjoy those moments.
Yeah. So when he's been interviewed about the character.
Just even in the show himself.
Okay, yeah.
Because
there's so much drama going on in that show, it seems like, that just... There's so much more to his character.
Absolutely.
It probably doesn't even factor in the end after all the, fighting and incest.
Absolutely. There's a couple of people who bully him for it and he owns it. It's amazing.
That's good. What else? There's so many on here.
Single episode handicap.
Oh, yeah. Like, when Buffy was blind for that one episode. Oh, no. Was she blind or could she hear everything?
I don't know.
I don't know. I think I'm getting it wrong. There's an episode in Buffy the Vampire Slayer where she can hear everybody's thoughts.
Great. Super OCD.
Yeah. I love cleaning. I'm OCD.
I need to wash my hands all the time. That's not how it works.
Symbolic mutilation. Again, Dan Brown. I'm pretty sure he cuts off... In Da Vinci Code, he cuts off his arms or something.
Oh, God.
Could be just... oh, my God, throwing off the disability. That's kind of like single episode. Like, imagine a cape springing off and going, aha, I was not disabled the whole time.
Yes. Wheelchair antics. I have a bit of a mixed mentality on that.
That was like... Okay, thinking of how Glee is a pretty terrible show. There's that whole episode where I think his name is Artie, the character in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
He throws off his disability and you see him dance because the actor is not disabled in real life.
Oh, that's smart.
So you see him dance, and that is his dream. I'm not saying that it's not okay for people who cannot use their legs to then dream that one day they can, but for that to be like the cool episode about Artie or whatever his name is.
That's kind of very invalidating.
And like, I mean, what do you really expect Glee to do? But they sometimes said good things about gay people.
I mean,
good messages.
With Wheelchair Antics, I have a mixed thought about it because my mother, in her last years on this earth, was quite often in a wheelchair because she was highly unwell, physically not strong enough to walk. And I can remember as a kid doing wheelchair antics with her, like spinning the wheelchair and, you know, kind of running down the hallway in the hospital. And like, for that was a nice, positive experience. But that's then manipulated in movies to be like, oh my God, best day ever. I had my love interest spin me around in a wheelchair and now I'm, you know, everything's fixed. Like, it's a thing that you can understand would be a joyous thing, but it's also a thing of, it's a disrespectful to just grab someone's wheelchair and move them unless they have asked you or given you permission. And this idea of like, you can fix someone's day by just making them go on a fun joyride by pushing their wheelchair, which is an extension of their body.
Let me just drag your arm and drag you down the street.
That's the same thing. It is the same thing as grabbing someone by the arm and dragging them down the street. Their wheelchair is part of them, just like their cane or walker is. But anyway, I'm going to stop because I could do a whole podcast on that.
Well, that was the end of the tropes anyway, so I'm sure that you can recognise a lot of awfulness that you can think of in disabled characters with a disability. And we're now going to explore characters that definitively have chronic pain. And we're going to start with quite a positive representation that we did not know beforehand researching this, and it's probably because we don't live in the UK.
You may have heard of a show called Coronation Street. It's a soap show based in the UK that's been going for like forever. So she was the first. So Izzy Armstrong was the first disabled regular character in 50 years in this show, apparently. And she has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and we were Googling about chronic pain and she came up and I was quite interested, obviously, because it's not really a condition that's in the media at all. And one of her major plot lines is that she has chronic pain, which is very common in Ehlers-Danlos. She happens to use a wheelchair because the character and the actor have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and you see her being asked if she can stand and her going, yes, I can, but not for very long periods of time. It's very painful.
And she was not introduced on it wasn't, you know, the tragic accident that gives her the disability. She came to the show introduced as a character with a disability from the get-go.
Yeah.
It wasn't part of her tragic soap arc.
Yeah, and she has, like, a very massive arc of soapiness. Like, she's a very feisty character who has this very toxic relationship with this man, and she tries to have a baby and it doesn't go well, and then she's trying to adopt, but her partner, you know, has a criminal record. Like, it's a
he's in love with someone else.
And it's a very normal soap line, and she just happens to have a disability. But what I wanted to talk about was that she was sentenced to 3 months of prison in the show because she was found with like 4 grams of marijuana for her chronic pain, and she
last year's episodes.
And she does this amazing monologue talking about how the only reason she was caught with criminals was because the law in her country means that the one thing that cures her pain for a short period of time, not always, but just gives her some goddamn relief, is an illegal drug.
I'm genuinely sorry for running into that other officer. I shouldn't have done it. But I won't apologise for the cannabis.
You do know possession of cannabis is against the law.
Well, the law's wrong then. It's the only thing that helps me manage my pain. Why should I suffer just because the law's stupid? It was for personal use, that's all. Wasn't going to hurt anyone else.
Do you honestly believe that? Very naive. People like Randall target kids, get them hooked on hard drugs, draw them into a life of violence, misery, crime. You're just part of the same problem.
If you legalise cannabis for medical use, I wouldn't have to get involved with people like him. It's the law's fault, not mine.
And she only had enough on her persons to dose herself. Like, she was not distributing. Like, it was not a large amount. And yeah, she goes to prison, and this monologue she gives about, like, the law has to be wrong in this circumstance because I have the right to have relief for a condition that I have no say in whether I have it or not. And yeah, I watched some YouTube videos of her, because obviously I'm not going to watch, 20 years of Coronation Street to catch
Why
up.
not?
But yeah, and she's also like a character that's not particularly wealthy. She, you see a lot of disability in shows that the character's rich, so they compensate and no one notices.
Yeah, like an SVU episode, how it's like they're disabled and you think they're just like part of the background and then they're the killer in the end. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I don't think anyone on this show is. I think it is meant to show middle/lower middle class life.
Yeah.
It's a vibe I got, and we were talking about before how we really appreciate that everyone in this show. I felt like I was watching real life, because you don't have a certain superficial, pretty look about a lot of the... it's not like to Hollywood standards where you're like, oh, like watching an Australian soap like Home and Away.
Yeah, they're
it's
not...
kind of like everyone looks like a beach model.
Yeah, well, not... Like, people in the show are normal weights, normal heights, normal dress. Like, you don't have that thin, white, rich,
They
pretty,
don't have it...
white girl, white man...
Yeah.
like...
And I noticed in the scenes of her being arrested, she probably only had minimal makeup on. And that can be quite so-called brave of an actress to do.
And her hair was a mess.
Yeah.
Which is quite realistic.
Mm-hmm.
She's in a bloody prison cell.
Yeah.
Probably without
Not
a shower.
literally bloody, but just like a damn prison cell.
Yeah, like a darn gosh darn... Tootin' prison cell where she probably hasn't had access to a bathroom to fix her hair. Like, as if it's going to be perfectly styled. But yeah, I found her character quite exciting in a concept. Yeah.
She is also an ambassador for an EDS charity.
Yes.
And it seems like in the UK, EDS has a much bigger presence.
Absolutely. It does. Especially women. Unfortunately, while EDS does affect men, there's much less awareness around males with EDS, which I will not go into. But yeah, there's this massive kind of feminist style EDS movement in the UK, especially around pensions and EDS, because there's a massive issue getting pensions all over the world as a person who's disabled due to EDS.
So getting a disability pension, like a government welfare or assistance.
Absolutely.
So like Centrelink in Australia's case.
Yeah.
And didn't we see something, there was a tabloid about her?
Yeah, so there was this tabloid post accusing her of faking her disability because...
The actress.
The actress herself.
Shirley Houston. The actress's name is...
The actress's name is Shirley Houston, and Shirley Houston herself has EDS, and she was filmed by paparazzi walking outside of her flat or apartment, not using her wheelchair for a couple of steps and then hopping into the chair. And there was this accusation... they were accusing her of like being a fake disabled person, and she was a benefits cheat and she wasn't disabled, when realistically those couple of steps she took would have been pretty painful, and she had to get back in the wheelchair to go about her day. Like, for all I know, she was walking downstairs because her apartment wasn't disability friendly for a wheelchair.
And so someone came to her door, I believe, to abuse her and her partner about this.
Yeah, her partner was abused by paparazzi. Her partner, Toby, had a stranger give wild I can't say accusations
It's
today.
kind of like you're trying to say acquisitions at the same time.
It is. So yeah, she was pretty much attacked.
Verbally,
yeah. And that's pretty common, unfortunately.
Yeah. That's like people being like, you can walk, why do you have a disabled car sticker?
Yeah.
On your car. Parking sticker.
Yeah.
Words. I can't say them either.
We're not having a good day with enunciation.
Look, let's be honest, we're never having a good day with enunciation.
Yeah. So people can be using wheelchairs because they're in a lot of pain. And that is perceived and spoken about with Izzy Armstrong, which I was excited about.
Yeah. So if you read through Izzy Armstrong, the character's Wikipedia article, like if you just kind of like read a bit about her story, it sounds really ridiculous. But then if you watch it, it's very, it's a much more positive, I think, and heartening representation. Would you say?
Absolutely. And she's this feisty young woman who's just living her life.
Yeah. There was a really good scene where she kind of explains to this woman why she refuses help. This woman kind of arguing with her, saying, but I'm just happy to help, you don't have to be tough all the time. and her talking about, well, this is why I refuse help in certain times because I don't want to be condescended to. So the show, and I think being a soap and being a TV show rather than a movie, it's probably allowed a lot of those conversations that are just, they're too big to put into a movie because you're pressed for time.
Yes.
That you can actually have them unfold a lot. That's pretty good. I mean,
Shirley also gave a really lovely interview with, as Emma was saying, she's an ambassador for EDS UK. And she had this interview and she just spoke about, you know, her experiences as a woman with EDS and, you know, her experience as being an actor and the interchange between, you know, representing herself in a different lens on screen. Obviously, she wasn't being her own character on screen. Like, Izzy is a little bit different from Shirley as a person, personality-wise, but they just happen to have the same disability, and how it's... I get annoyed when you see people on screen that quite clearly are using a wheelchair that have never been wheelchair-bound.
because you can tell the difference.
I can. I've got a lot of friends who use wheelchairs, and one of my close friends is in the process of getting a new wheelchair, and she was saying that a university that I won't name, just to leave it out of awkwardness, has a lot of diverse, you know, filming campaigns for adverts, and she has offered to be filmed in her wheelchair every single time, and every time they fail to offer or allow or add someone to this campaign about how inclusive this university is, they have never had someone in a wheelchair in the ads, despite her applying every time.
I remember years ago when I was at uni, we pointed out that that uni that I went to didn't have a diverse range of body sizes because we were doing a seminar on eating disorders. We went, just look at the adverts. Everyone's
Thin.
And, like, it's not that hard to do to find people of a diverse range of body sizes
Those,
or abilities.
Those ads were showing actual students who have applied to be in the ads, and they pick people of every, you know, skin colour, but they're all the same size.
Yeah.
And they're all able-bodied.
Look, we're only allowing one minority at a time, you know? Too many minorities, people get too confused.
But we could have had it all.
No.
Rolling in the deep.
No. something inside your hand.
Oh, God.
And you played it to the beat.
Yeah, well...
No, that's not allowed.
Not allowed.
I'm just trying to think of which one. I'm trying to thinking like a teacher going, which one would be most interesting next to keep people hooked?
Okay, who are you going to do?
I think I'm actually going to pick one that kind of flows on from Coronation Street.
Do it.
But just to say, we are going to talk about House in a second, so you've got to keep listening.
Stay tuned.
Okay, I'm going to now talk about an Australian soap, not Home and Away, but another Australian soap opera called Neighbours.
Okay, if you're from the UK, you know more about Neighbours than we do.
I actually don't ever watch Neighbours.
I watched it once.
I was a Home and Away fan for a very long time as a teenager.
Ooh.
Yeah. So many people from Home and Away are Hollywood actors now.
Yeah, it's like
big
a stepping
names.
stone.
I keep seeing them and I'm like, wait, you're in Home and Away. Actually, one of them is in one of the movies we're going to be talking about, Me Before You.
Yes.
Guy from Home and Away is in that. Anywho, I'm talking about Neighbours. So Neighbours is where, you know, neighbours become good friends. That's the theme
when
song.
neighbours become good friends.
Then like some stupid jazz music playing in the background. Yeah. So it's a show about people who live in the same neighbourhood.
Like Coronation Street.
Yeah. And probably EastEnders in
Yeah.
the UK, I assume. Home and Away, it's all set in the one beach, but they decided to do a little bit different with the name. Anyways, Neighbours is a show that's been around for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it's had quite a number of characters that have been on for many, many years. And one of them is the character Susan. So Susan is a sort of an older kind of character now. She's, I would say, probably 60-ish or so. I'm talking about this character, but I have only watched clips of it because I don't like Neighbours that much. But as she has aged, she, in recent seasons, was diagnosed with MS after a number of really frightening events or like just episodes of her becoming, I think it was she became totally blind. And I remember talking with George about this because I didn't know a lot about MS, multiple sclerosis. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what it is? Because I'm pants at remembering what.
Okay, so multiple sclerosis is a neurological disorder that is often stereotyped to only occur in older people. It's genetic, and you can get people as young as 17 developing MS or younger. And what happens is the myelin sheath that coats your neurons, which are your brain pathways, is destroyed by your own body. So the protective, you know, like with like a electrical cord, there's that plastic wrapping that protects the wires.
Yeah.
Your plastic wrapping is being eaten and destroyed by your own body. It's autoimmune. So what happens is these nerve signals or these pathways of brain activity that go from your brain to parts of your body to tell your body to do things can get disrupted, and you can get brain damage, spinal damage, and what happens is that parts of your body will struggle to function at times or at all.
Is it degenerative, so you'll slowly
This is the thing. It can be degenerative, it can be relapse remission, or it can be both.
relapse and remission, so you could totally stop having...
Yeah.
And then it comes back.
Yeah. So
That's awful.
So relapse remission type is the most terrifying type. One of my closest friends, who I love so much, has progressive MS that's continuously getting worse, and she's getting new symptoms all the time. And sometimes they come and go, but quite often when that new symptom arrives, it stays forever.
That's such a shame.
So my friend Alex, she has neuro issues in terms of memory, in terms of vision and auditory ability to focus on things, and she'll have what look like blackouts that she's just not there mentally. She gets extreme pain, she struggles with walking occasionally or moving her arms, and she gets numbness, pain. It's hell. It is a hellish condition, and your body just does things that don't make sense. Like there was a time that my neurologist was considering that I had MS because my body was doing weird things in terms of stability and perception and feeling and pain, but my myelin was fine. So it's a really diverse condition that everyone stereotypes of, oh, they get MS and occasionally they go blind. Or they get MS and occasionally they fall over. Like, it's so diverse. So how does Susan fit into that?
So she is experiencing some symptoms. As we said, she is a little bit of an older character. She's been married to... She's had a husband on the show and has had quite a, obviously a soap opera kind of life. So, ups and downs. But she's presented as a good character. She's quite well loved. Seen as a mother figure on the show, but not quite a grandmother figure yet. She's not like the bitty old lady. And so she experiences blindness. And she's getting a scan. And her husband is a doctor and is realising what is happening to her as she's getting these brain scans. Which is really terrifying for her. Now, that blindness is temporary for her. And her sight comes back in the show. And MS Australia and other MS advocates have actually praised how her portrayal has been shown in the show. She is still a character on the show. Again, we've got this because, it's a nightly show. Being a soap opera, it's 5 days a week. They've got enough time to actually show just the boring, almost realities of living with MS and how you would, function in a whole half an hour or, 10-minute slot. As opposed to just showing all the dramatic, hard or interesting bits of life. Because you're going to see Susan walking to the local cafe. You're going to see her go talk to a neighbour. Or neighbours.
What?
Because do you know that's where people become good friends?
When they talk to their neighbours?
Yeah.
I don't know my neighbours at all. I'm the worst neighbour.
You're such a millennial.
I move a lot, so...
Yeah. I mean, it's part of your EDS.
Yeah. That's why I'm an arsehole, right?
Because your body moves a lot, you move a lot.
I am a human jellyfish.
Nice. An immortal jellyfish?
Hopefully.
That'd be pretty rad. But then that means you would, just revert back to childhood. It'd be like Benjamin Button, almost.
That show, that movie terrifies me.
I saw that movie twice, and I lost, a good, 4 hours of my life doing that.
Benjamin Button scares me.
It's not real.
No, I know, but, it's... I don't know. It scares me.
Okay. Well, anyways, Susan is not Benjamin Button. That was such a tangent. I'm sorry. I do that a lot.
It's okay.
So basically, it's seen as a positive portrayal, and she did not die from MS on the show.
Thank God.
Yet. But I think usually when that happens, they do it with a little bit of soap opera ridiculousness, a little bit of heart, and they'll send her off respectfully and properly.
I play Susan Kennedy on Neighbours. Several years ago she was diagnosed with MS, and I think her response to it was probably very similar to most people who do suffer from the condition.
It's not like Bold and the Beautiful where like people like get possessed by the devil and then they like come back from the dead 20 years later. These soaps are set in a bit more of a reality of a middle class life in Australia, I would say.
Yeah.
Maybe upper middle class, but it's not as lower middle class as Coronation Street.
Did they show Susan in pain?
That I'm not too sure of.
Okay.
But all I could really find was that she's seen as something good. That doesn't make sense.
No, it does, because my hips just kind of subluxing a little bit, so I'm like just, keeping it real.
Chronic pain happening right live here.
I know, live.
In the studio.
Live minor dislocation of George's hip.
So if George's voice is a bit far away, it's because of that.
Yeah, sorry guys. I'll be good, I'm fine.
That's fine.
This is fine.
So, maybe while you're curing your hip with some ginger tea.
Yes.
No. Maybe I'll talk a bit about my next one, and then you can talk about...
Yeah.
Or I could possibly move the mic closer to you.
No. Let me just flip.
No, I can move it.
I'm good, mate.
Oh, that's my frustration at George's stubbornness. Are you sure that's okay?
Yeah. This is fine.
Fine.
It's fine. It's in the socket. It's
Right.
just spasming a little.
So why don't we
Yes.
continue to just tick off all the TV shows?
Sounds good.
So we've got 3 more TV shows to talk about.
Okay.
And then we've got 2 films.
What's next?
Well, next, would you like to talk about House?
House MD. I will admit, I want to be in the health field as a health practitioner, and a little part of me really enjoyed House because it showed weird diseases. Now, not talking about House themselves for a little bit, I want to talk about the disorders they show on House. They show people with lupus, and they kind of make lupus this kind of flashy, fancy disease when it's actually quite heartbreaking. So lupus is just your body is having a tantrum and attacking itself kind of everywhere for no good reason kind of disease.
Sounds like every chronic illness, to be honest.
To be honest, that's my really bad explanation of it. And lupus is quite painful. And like they show these dramatic scenes of people in hospital beds screaming in pain, and doctors like just dropping everything and running to help them and giving them pain relief and breaking into their houses and getting them like diagnosis and stuff. And I'm sorry, but that's not what it's like to be in hospital with chronic pain. I've been left in a hospital bed screaming in pain because I couldn't have any more medication because I was at the max and there was nothing they could do to help me. Like, it is not like that. But in saying that, it was kind of interesting for me to see a show about odd medical disorders that I hadn't heard of.
I love a weird medical condition.
I really enjoy...
Or a weird psychological condition.
I like a good learning experience. I obviously go and research it and find out if they got it wrong before I go around repeating things. But, okay, so House MD had a damaged thigh muscle. I can't remember how it happened.
Dem thighs.
There was something wrong with his thigh muscle that it had to be cut out of his leg.
It was his divorce. His divorce caused his chronic pain.
Oh, God.
Didn't you know emotional turmoil caused chronic pain? No, but he was married and then that did break up.
So,
right? That happened in the show.
Yeah, so I have it in my memory somehow. So he had like this thigh muscle part of his leg removed, and his wife made the call to do a certain kind of surgery because he was in pain. It was all very unethical.
Oh yeah, and he blamed her.
And he blamed his wife for picking a certain surgery that may have saved his life, and he got a divorce, and things just hit the fan for him. And he now is in a lot of pain from the surgery and the disorder he had, and he has to use a walking stick because he struggles with balance and controlling his limbs. And they do this episode where he has something go wrong because of his dependence on opioids, that they put him into a coma and then they wake him up and he wakes up without pain. And then there's this like crazy episode where he's like skating and running and doing all these like crazy things. But what happens is it's a trope of not disabled for one episode, And then he becomes disabled again, and then he's really sad and, problems. But with House, they show dependence on opioids, and his dependence is on Vicodin. And because
It's a major plot point.
it's pretty much his whole character for most episodes. The fact that he's trying to get Vicodin from his peers and colleagues, and that he steals it from patients, and he almost loses his job. But it doesn't matter, guys, because he's a genius, and he saves lives by encouraging his much younger medical team and belittling them and bullying them into breaking into houses and breaking ethics, and yeah.
I remember really enjoying it when I was a teenager, when I did not have chronic pain, and I was watching it as it came out.
Yeah.
I wonder what it would be like watching it again and being like, oh, that's just... Does he feel like a stereotype of the what was it, the cranky jerky jerk?
So,
Jerky jerk.
the jerk with disability?
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to see my mother.
Hi again. I'm sure I could say this without being condescending, but then you get the false impression that I respect you. So you're a kid, you're scared, you're stalling. Grow up.
So he's perceived as this asshole, and he kind of is.
And he gets away with it because it's like, oh, I'm in such pain, so I can be it.
Well,
Awesome.
that, and he saves lives. So it's okay, guys. It's okay, guys. He can be a massive ass to patients and staff, but he saves lives, so, it's fine.
It's that suspension of disbelief that happens with basically all medical shows where they skirt around the rules and then they save the patient's life and they don't receive any discipline. Although, just saying that, Grey's Anatomy actually did a pretty good job of showing the consequences once or twice for doctors who did that.
But yeah, so House MD, there's this major plot point that he falls in love and he becomes a bit of a family man for 2 minutes because his partner, who is one of the medical professionals in the hospital, adopts a baby that...
Isn't she his boss?
Yes.
It's Lisa Cuddy, right?
Lisa Cuddy. So Cuddy is this very dynamic, powerful woman who has a soft spot for House. And quite often House barks at her to get away with his, shenanigans. And they end up breaking up, and House kind of falls off the rails and does some illegal activities, and yeah, it's really messy. But while we're on House, actually the last season... Sorry, if you haven't seen House, just, don't listen for 2 minutes, because I'm about to spoil the last season. And leave. Okay. Anyone else? Keep listening. So, his best friend on the show gets cancer and dies.
Oh, does he die? I didn't watch up until that point.
Yeah, so
But he's an oncology doctor.
the oncologist gets cancer and dies.
Ugh. Did he go through chemo?
No.
Because, apparently, doctors who are oncologists say I wouldn't do chemo.
He doesn't go through chemo because he knows that his chances of dying anyway are pretty high.
Okay, and apparently they just know it's not worth it half the time.
Yep. So, his best friend in the whole world who has always been there
His
for
name
him...
Wilson?
Wilson, I think
Sorry,
so.
it's all coming back to me as you're talking.
It's okay. So, his best friend in the whole wide world dies, and it's like oh, what now? But he fakes his own death to avoid the law so he can spend the last months with his best friend who's dying.
Can you be specific about who fakes what death?
Okay, so House...
Yes.
does this massive property damage of his ex-girlfriend, who's Lisa Cuddy. And I think that's why he gets in trouble with the law and he's supposed to be in jail, but he fakes his own death via a house fire. So he can be there for his best friend who's dying of cancer.
So do you see his best friend dying of cancer in the show?
I don't think so, but...
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying, he died and then House did this thing.
No. His best friend hadn't died yet, but he knew his best friend would die. And because he knew his best friend was going to die, and House pretty much made it that his bestie could never have a healthy relationship with a woman, so he had nobody. Because he was a very shitty friend.
Mm. And that weird episode where his girlfriend died, and that was a weird episode.
Oh, there's so much that happens. But yeah, so basically... House MD is the tortured genius who happens to have chronic pain.
Life is pain! I wake up every morning, I'm in pain. I go to work in pain. You know how many times I wanted to just give up? How many times I've thought about ending it?
And they take him to rehab and all this kind of stuff.
I don't really get how he could function as a drug addict for that long.
There is no way. The amount of Vicodin he was on in some of those episodes.
Yeah, and like, you know, once the issue with drugs is that you get, if they're painkillers, you get used to that level of pain and then they stop working. So then you'd have to be keeping on increasing.
Yes.
You'd be doing much harder drugs.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think they show him in a full-fledged overdose. I don't think so. I'm probably...
House fans are screaming at us.
Yeah, sorry if I forgot him overdosing. But I know he hides it from his friends, and like, yeah, it's messy. I have a lot of mixed feelings about House. But yeah, it's another portrayal that comes to mind about chronic pain.
Yeah, it's probably the portrayal, as we said, that comes to mind.
What upsets me is the whole plot point of him being in pain is that he's therefore a drug addict. I'm in pain a lot. I'm not a drug addict.
But we do know a lot of people are.
Yeah, I know.
But they're not really... I wonder if you're in chronic pain, how much of a functional drug addict you are.
I have no idea.
You know, like, you hear about a lot of, like, CEOs doing, like, cocaine. Just recreationally, they do it a bit and they can, like, withstand it because they're not doing it all the time. But if you're someone who's in that much pain and you're doing that much drugs, I just feel like, how long could you actually be in a high-powered job making intense decisions and doing lots of paperwork?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I mean, we could harp on all day about how a fictional show is not portraying reality.
I can barely stay awake when I take legitimate pain drugs now.
Me either.
But I'm a small woman. Like, I don't weigh very much. So, I don't know. Who knows?
Who knows? It's kind of like, you know, when people try to figure out, like, the logic or the science behind fictional shows, and you're just like...
It's a dragon. There's no logic.
There are logical dragons. So, I'm going to touch on this next one really quickly. I'm going to go bam bam.
Do it.
The last 2 TV shows. And the idea of addiction to painkillers. We're going to briefly mention Nurse Jackie as a TV show. It shows a nurse who has an addiction to painkillers stemming from back pain. And once again, this happens to be one of the shows that neither of us have particularly seen. I think I've seen maybe 2 episodes. And from reading some extensive synopses, couldn't really say with accuracy that you really see her in pain. It is more about the addiction than the pain. Whereas at least House does show him needing the painkillers because he's having a bad pain day.
Yes, they show him in agony.
Yeah. So if I'm wrong, consider Nurse Jackie a goodish representation. But it does show her. I mean, but again, I don't want to be mean to people who have struggled with painkiller drug addictions because, like...
It's a real hard problem. Like, I can't imagine.
And it's just, that's what happens to people in life. And I think that's a slippery slope that we could all fall into. So I don't want to be, like, shaming those people if they've recovered and they're getting on with their lives. But at the same time, we need more representation than people just trying to get drugs. Like, if you think about it, we've had Izzy Armstrong doing
Marijuana.
drugs.
House
doing drugs.
Vicodin.
Nurse Jackie doing drugs.
I mean, I think it's good that there's that understanding, even though badly, that there is quite a confounding problem with drug use when you have chronic pain. But there are a lot of people that have chronic pain that don't have problems with drugs. And that's not really in the media.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, my story isn't really about a problem with drugs.
Yeah, me neither. Like, my more problem with drugs is that I haven't been able to handle them. Not that I've ever become addicted to them. I haven't been able to stay on enough because they had other side effects. So...
Yeah, and I've got the same issue. Like, there were some pain meds that really helped me, but they would lead to other problems with my body.
I guess that's what I wonder if Izzy Armstrong's character shows, and Susan's, of having MS on Neighbours, whether they show that cycle of constantly needing to try new things because you outgrew the last ones or they didn't work. That would be quite interesting.
I feel like Izzy Armstrong kind of states that in her monogram. Like, she found monologue about how... Monorail! How it's, like, not fair that she's being prosecuted for using cannabis because it's the only thing that's worked. And I feel a lot of empathy for people in that position because... I feel like there are worse things than finding a medication that helps you. Like, I've never had cannabis, recreationally or medically.
Me neither.
But I'm on nerve stabilizers, and they've worked for me.
That's great.
But I wouldn't consider myself addicted to them, because saying that I have experienced withdrawal from different kinds of medications because my neurochemistry had adapted to them. And when I stopped taking that chemical, my body kind of short-circuited. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's not just that emotional need.
It's not like, I want drugs. It's more like, oh my goodness, I had to stop this drug and now my body is having a tantrum. Like, where's that story?
So, the last show that I was going to talk about is a character from Grey's Anatomy, the basically soap opera. I wanted to say it's kind of like a soap opera, but it's just a really dramatic show. Like, if you have watched Grey's Anatomy, like, everyone died in a plane crash at one point. Not like Lost.
Medical drama.
So I just really spoiled the ending of Lost.
I gave up on Lost so quickly.
You should have, because it was all an illusion. It was all a dream.
Oh, they all died when the plane crashed.
Yeah.
Dude, I was up to the submarine part.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Like, a woman sent a submarine, but it wasn't actually the woman, and it was the evil people on the island trying to steal women that could have babies.
Okay. They really planned that show out, didn't they?
It made no sense.
Oh my god.
It kind of helps me to know that they all died.
That's like, I'm rewatching Gossip Girl because...
Oh my god, that show made no sense.
I love Gossip Girl. It's such a stupid, like, vapid show.
Yeah.
But, spoilers again, the fact that
But it was Dan, but it was like...
It's so not him. You can actually go back and find spots, and it's like...
It can't have been him, because he was upset about the content that was being published. Ugh.
Yeah, and he would have done some pretty awful things to his friends. Like basically he would have caused, like, a character to lose a child at one point.
Yep, which is not Dan Humphrey's character. Anyway.
So basically, just saying, plan your story arcs, people.
Plan your story arcs.
Okay, so this character who suffers from chronic pain is Arizona Robbins, who is a peds surgeon, so a children's surgeon, who was in a massive plane crash in a later season. Lots of characters died and, like, got eaten by wolves. It was really intense, and lots of people survived, and she had to get her lower leg amputated.
Right.
And basically the way it is introduced after the season finale of the plane crash happening, is that you see her partner. She's a lesbian character, which is really great. And she's with her partner is a bisexual woman, Callie.
Representation.
Yeah, and they're actually both, I would say, average-sized or plus-sized women. Both white. Callie is, wait, what nationality is she meant to be? Oh my god, I just know that it's gone from my brain. Okay, I'm just going to miss that.
Okay.
But basically, they've got a pretty good representation there.
Yeah.
They start off the episode with being like, everyone's like, I'm so sorry, Callie, and they're making you think that Arizona is dead. And then it shows her going back home, and they also have a child between them as well.
Okay.
A daughter, who's very young at this stage, like a toddler. And you see her Callie open the bedroom door, and Arizona is there with a sheet over her legs, and she's very rude to Callie and basically does a house and goes, how dare you cut off my leg, reveal that she has no leg. So she's missing a lower leg, and so I'm kind of equating that to house.
So her partner did the amputation.
Yes. Oh yes, right. So if you're not a Grey's Anatomy person, yes, her partner actually did the amputation because she's a
surgeon as well.
Yeah, they're all surgeons in Grey's Anatomy by this point.
Yeah, great. So obviously, if you're getting major surgery, there is a risk.
And
for
she
nerve
made the
damage
decision
and
as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love that. Like, partner made a decision, resent them forever, and I'm like, oh.
Like, I totally get how that could happen, but also, yeah. Anyways, they eventually move past that, and like, Callie's just being this amazing, like, wife to her and doting on her and really trying to care for her, and finally they both just basically have this pretty awesome scene where Callie just goes, I can't do this, you need to get over yourself, to Arizona for basically just
being a baby.
Well, not being a baby, but definitely there comes a point where someone's got to pull you out of the grief of
I get that.
yourself.
I've been there.
Yeah, and so that's a really great scene.
How the hell am I supposed to snap out of this when you cut off my leg?
And it shows Arizona going through various stages of dealing with her amputation.
So the morning.
The morning, and also having the pain when it's not there. So the phantom pains of her leg.
Ouch.
And it does show her, she does have a limp.
Yep.
From the rest of the series, and she's still on the show. The show is still going, believe it or not.
Okay.
It's like up to like season
Does
29.
Does she get back to her career?
Yes, she does, and she actually advances her career. It does not stop her, it does slow her down, and they still bring it up in some episodes. It's not totally forgotten. So that's pretty good. I would say it's not a perfect representation because they don't really see her take painkillers. They don't mention the pain too much, but they will from time to time be like, oh hey, I have no leg, or something.
Oh god.
But at the start, they really do harp on the phantom pains.
Do they show the process of her getting her prosthetics?
Yes, they do, and they show her learning to walk with it.
That's kind of good.
Yeah.
Like, rehab is hard. Like, I've done pain rehab or injury rehab because I had my knee operated on when I was 16. Like, it was fully pretty much reconstructed from it.
Ouch.
Yeah. Because I was hypermobile and I went skiing and I didn't know. And, like, the rehab process is really confronting, and there's quite often a really bad representation of rehab because it's like sports injury and then you're all better and nothing has changed, and, like, that's not every experience of rehab, physical rehab.
From my memory, and I mean, this is a very exaggerated, over-dramatic show.
Yeah.
It's like her and a bunch of, like, army vets or something at the hospital who are going through this special program.
I mean, yeah, fair in saying that that's probably a little too stereotypical, but when I did pain rehab, there was a couple of vets with me.
So by this we mean veterans, not
Yeah.
animal doctors.
I mean, that would be cool.
Yeah. There is a vet that someone falls in love with in Grey's Anatomy, but it's not then.
Naturally.
So she's the last TV show character that we could find that actually has... Oh, wait. There's more?
I have a question that I'm asking ourselves. We didn't find anyone who had pain who had an assistance animal.
No.
Which...
What character has an assistance animal in a TV show?
That is done well.
Wait, what is done badly, though?
Like, everything.
But what? I don't remember an assistance animal being in a TV show.
Neither do I,
Or a
but,
movie.
like, I can't think of them, but they're just the way everyone perceives them is just, ugh.
Just patting them and not using them correctly.
Yeah, don't make eye contact with other people's assistance dogs. Don't touch them. Don't whistle at them. Don't feed them.
Or at least, if you don't know those things, if the owner politely says to you, hey, this is my assistant dog, XYZ, don't do it. Listen to them.
Oh, but it's a dog and they deserve to have fun.
Dogs just want to have fun. That
What-
was Georgia just smiling at me. So, I think we should move on to the two movies we're going to talk about. And I think we should end on Me Before You. Because
Yes, please.
it's such a cluster of...
All of the thoughts.
Yep, so let's, well, mostly you, talk about the movie Cake with Jennifer Aniston.
Okay, so Jennifer Aniston, I don't know her character's name. Anyway, she plays...
It's Jennifer Aniston.
She plays a woman who has been in a car crash, I believe, and...
We researched this so well. We came so prepared.
I watched it ages ago.
I feel like half of this episode is going, I think that's what happened.
Oh, God. Anyway, so she loses her child in the same situation that she got chronic pain.
Her child was born, right? Like it was a
born baby or small toddler.
Yeah. So it wasn't like, sorry, I just wanted to make that distinction that she wasn't pregnant and lost a child.
No. She had given birth and the child was like under 5 and had died in the circumstances that caused her pain. Her marriage broke down and she goes to like a support group and she becomes obsessed with a woman who was in the support group who took her own life due to the not being able to handle the pain anymore, which I think was a very important story arc that isn't spoken about. So this character took their own life because their life wasn't the way they wanted it and their mental health had gone down the toilet, and it was a really, really tragic and sad situation that I don't think necessarily was a massively informed choice for her. I think it was a desperation because a lot of the characters that were involved in her life, it wasn't a planned, I'm going to have control of my agency act. It was a, I'm not coping, I'm miserable, make it end.
Yeah.
And her husband loses a wife. And I'm pretty sure they have a kid that's almost the same age as Jennifer Aniston's kid that was killed.
How poetic.
How poetic. Anyway, so Jennifer Aniston gets obsessed with this woman who takes her own life
That's
from
healthy.
her support group, stalks her house, finds her husband, and falls in love with the husband.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yep. Anyway,
It's quite a bleak, dramatic movie. It's not what you expect from Jennifer Aniston.
no, and Jennifer Aniston has scarring on her face.
Let's go with that.
I think she has scarring. Anyway, so she's in a lot of pain. She's not working. She's a housekeeper that acts as a carer. You know, when she gets in the car, the car seat is fully declined, so she's lying down, not sitting upright, because upright is painful. And it just shows her struggling to rehabilitate.
I am in a lot of pain. I know. You may know, but sometimes I suspect that you think I'm this uncooperative old bitch who's just making all of this up.
And it really shows her in quite a lot of pain. Like she is, we were discussing before about sometimes the way I react to when I'm in pain is I shut down emotionally and I will just get this blank look and I won't talk. Whereas I felt like in that movie, perhaps for dramatic purposes, you saw her grimace a lot.
Yeah.
But she did have a very bleak kind of
She had the empty soul look.
Yeah.
The I feel empty inside and I am in hell look.
And I think they definitely made her costuming to really represent that too.
I loved the costuming. She was in legitimately pain reduction related clothes, like loose fitting, baggy clothes.
Grey, I just remember lots of grey.
Lots of grey, not very colourful, textures that feel soft and nice. Like it was very realistic of what you would wear if you were at home in pain.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it shows her kind of coming to grips with losing her child and falling in love with this man, and you know, I think she has sexual relationships with this man, and this man is like, I can't fix you, and blah 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 blah. And it's a really kind of dramatic movie about her towards the end coming to terms with her new life.
And I guess wanting to live, if we're looking at the parallel between her thinking I'm going to be... Like, I think usually if someone becomes obsessed with someone else killing themselves, it's because they're going to follow that road. Maybe that's just me psychoanalyzing.
No, I feel like that's a very common, like, cliche in movies.
Well,
but
wouldn't it be kind of a real life indicator too?
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Absolutely.
You're
There's something called the cluster effect, that when there's a suicide that's highly reported, they do become more common, which is, yeah. But yeah, so she kind of goes through this journey that she gets to the point that she has that attitude of like, I'm going to live my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember if her and the guy that she becomes in love with because she was obsessed with his ex-wife last or not. I can't remember.
That's unhealthy.
But she actually kind of has this catharsis with her ex-husband, and they kind of end on good terms. Like there's this scene where her husband comes to her ex-husband comes over to like look after her, and obviously they're not married anymore and they're not in love anymore, but her ex-husband just holds her. Just human to human, in a non like, I'm here to just have sex with you kind of way.
Yeah.
Like it was you're a human that's struggling, I'm going to help you.
Like an intimate moment.
Yeah, and in a really kind of powerful way of showing like, she's being strong by asking for help.
Yes.
And that's a lot of her plotline. Her getting the courage to ask for help.
And I guess being able to emotionally be vulnerable again.
Yes. How do we get attached and care about people?
Yeah, which would be so hard after all that grief.
Yeah.
Why is the movie called Cake? I've totally forgotten.
I don't remember.
Okay.
I think maybe there's cake at the support group. I don't know.
I'm just gonna look at Wikipedia real quick. So I would say like it's probably, I'm not like a huge, I really liked Friends. I wouldn't say much about Jennifer Aniston's acting abilities, but I think it's probably her best movie.
I feel like it was one of her more dynamic characters that's not just like...
It also has Sam Worthington in it. I think that's who she falls in love with.
I think so too. But there's this amazing scene where one night she can't sleep because she's in pain, so she just floats in the pool.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of a good thing to do, because when you're in pain, sometimes just a different sensation can help. And you see her get desperate to get out of this pain, and she just kind of has this, oh, bugger it moment. And she just kind of floats in the pool. Which probably seems stupid to people who haven't been in pain chronically, but to me it made a lot of sense. Like, that's the concept of why a shower feels good, or like a TENS machine, which is a little like nerve impulse machine, helps with pain, like distracting the nerves, just getting a different sensation into your body.
Exactly. I can't really find a really simple idea of why it's called cake.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
we're gonna post this. I'm gonna get comments being like, it's called cake because of this.
It's got layers like an onion.
Calm down, donkey. No, that's Shrek, isn't it? Shrek says the onions layer thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
Shrek.
reference was correct.
No, but I said donkey said it. It's Shrek who says it.
Oh, who cares? Some Shrek stan is like...
What's next, my friend?
It's the last thing we're going to talk about. And I want to explain...
This is your go.
Yeah,
you showed me this movie.
Yep. And I want to explain the process of the recent movie that caused a lot of uproar for people with disabilities.
Yes.
And that is Me Before You. Starring Emilia Clarke and...
Who I love.
That guy from the Hunger Games movies. Give me 2 seconds.
Emilia Clarke is such a bubbly, wonderful woman.
Yeah.
I was actually listening to interviews between their co-stars, her and him, and he was saying that her character in the movie is very much so her in real life, just that bubbly personality, just really cares about everyone.
Sam Claflin.
Is that Peter?
No.
Who is it?
He's Finnick, the ropey.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I said ropey, like ropes. He's like about the sea. He's in the second movie.
No,
he's in love with
He's
Annie.
the hot one.
He's the hot one, yeah. He was like a sex worker for the Capitol. They made him a sex worker.
Yes.
Probably all this backstory that's actually not in the movies.
Yes.
Sorry.
I read those books. He was hot in the books too.
Yeah. Okay. So we should probably stop objectifying this man.
Sorry. He's just really
so basically,
pretty.
this movie is about this character, Will Traynor, who is played by the attractive man, Sam Claflin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically he's hit by a car. He was a wealthy, successful banker or something.
He travelled the world. He had the model girlfriend. He was popular. He was rich. He drove expensive cars. Like,
he went to Paris.
He was the epitome of what most white, educated men want to be.
Yes. And we learn at the start of the movie that he's been hit by a car. Then enter, and he was completely paralysed.
Yes.
And then enter Emilia Clarke's character.
Yes.
Who...
she's a beautiful, irreverent, bubbly person.
She comes from a lower middle class family, and she's desperate to have a job because they need the money. But she has spectacular shoes
and clothes
throughout the entire movie. They must have the best op shops in the world over there.
They must.
In the UK. So she gets this job as basically not so much a caretaker or a carer, but simply a companion. Someone to take care of this grouchy jerk.
Asshole.
Egotistical. Yeah. Who is really sad about and bitter that he is paralysed and that nothing has worked. I think they say in the movie, he did like a year of rehab and he got some movement in his left hand. So
that he can move the wheelchair stick.
Yeah. So he is quite paralysed. Now, the actor is an able-bodied actor, so he's playing disabled. And usually that's the type of thing that if it was a bit more of a dramatic movie and not a rom-com, it would have earned him an Oscar. Faux show.
Yes.
So I want to talk a bit about my process because when this movie was coming out, I remember being so outraged that, one, it was not a disabled actor, and two, the whole premise of this movie, this is not spoiling it, the whole premise of the movie is that he wants to die.
Yes.
And she tries to save him from dying.
Because she falls in love with him.
Yes.
And he falls in love with her.
Yeah, but he still wants to die because he feels that his life is not worth living now that he is paralysed.
He literally makes the comment that all the things he would like to do to her in bed if he could, and how he can't do it, so what's the point of being in love with her?
Yeah.
Which is just messed up.
And he also talks about, she's like, we could still go to Paris, and he's like, no, we would have to worry about how to get my wheelchair on the cobblestone streets. So basically, it does present a point of view that, honestly, I'm sure so many people who have something that extreme happen to them go through, where they maybe do not want to live. But to be quite honest, we've seen that movie already. And so I think the movie was in 2015, 2016. For it to come out again was a bit, been there, done that.
Yes.
And also, for it to be a rom-com, it felt very Nicholas Sparks, oh, this is meant to be a tearjerker.
Yes. It was very, what's the cancer movie where he always wants to have a cigarette in his mouth and he dies, and Sheila, what's her face?
Oh, Fault in Our Stars.
Fault in Our Stars.
Yeah.
It's that kind of aesthetic of, like, sad things happen and everyone dies and nothing works out.
Yeah. I never saw the movie Fault in Our Stars, but I think the book handled it with a lot more grace.
I loved the book.
Yeah, okay, so the movie did not do it justice.
Not always.
Okay.
Not always. It
So,
was still pretty good.
Coming
not
back
always.
to Me Before You, I remember just being quite outraged, and I have a friend who had an acquired brain injury and is in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And for the message was, oh, well, you're in a wheelchair, you can't do lots of things. What's the point in living? Like, that would be so hard to have that message come through in pop culture. And it's like, oh, that person, this friend has like many uni degrees and has jobs and is doing really well with their life. So for that to be the main message of better dead than disabled.
Well, she has an honours degree.
Yeah. She's really successful in her life, and for then that to be kind of like a slap in the face. I had refused to watch the movie. I actually had a couple of people say, because I have a bit of a wacky fashion sense, I like wearing odd things and I colour coordinate my clothes, etc. They said, watch the movie because you dress just like the main character, and one of the character's quirks, I suppose what makes her quirky, like a quirky manic pixie dream girl almost, is that she wears funky clothes.
They are beautiful, and Emma does dress like her.
Thank you. I'll totally take that as a compliment. She has
It
cool
is.
clothes.
It is a compliment. I promise.
So they were like, watch it. She has great clothes, and I was like, I refuse. And then I was on a plane, and my friend was watching it. Who I was on the plane with, watching it next to me, the movie, an in-flight movie, and she was laughing her head off, and I was like, what? I didn't realize it was a funny movie. So then I watched it on the plane and I really enjoyed it. And when Georgia and I started making this podcast, I was like, we have to see this, because up until the point where he wants to die, it is a fantastic rom-com, and I stand by it.
Yeah.
If you just stop watching as soon as you realise he wants to die, or you just kind of cut out maybe the last 2 scenes.
Yes.
It's a great movie. Like, their chemistry is great. It's hilarious.
It's incredibly good chemistry.
Right, we better get you in.
Wait a minute, Clark.
You okay?
I don't want to go in yet. I just want to be a man who's been to a concert with a girl in a red dress.
Dialogue is funny. It makes you hate Neville Longbottom, like the actor.
Yeah.
It's just a really cute, quintessential British rom-com. It reminded me a lot of, like, Imagine Me and You, which is this great underseen lesbian British rom-com.
Yeah, fair.
And
I think it's also kind of good for women empowerment, because this main character, she was in this really toxic relationship with a man who treated her really badly and was a massive jerk.
Yeah.
And by meeting Will Traynor, she realises her worth.
Yeah.
And she learns a lot of amazing things from Will. Like, she's this amazing person that's strong and beautiful and very funny and has a great nature. And this guy just takes her for granted, and she leaves him.
Yeah.
And she gets this brand new outlook on life that she feels powerful.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that storyline.
So, spoilers for Me Before You. We'll just give you a couple of seconds to, like, skip ahead. So, he does die. He just chooses to die, and he does so in the movie.
Yeah.
He gets really sick towards the end of the movie. They kind of red herring it a little bit.
Yeah.
And then he finally decides to die, and he gives her a lot of money in his will. Will gives money in his will.
Yeah.
And it ends with the movie with her going to Paris, which is something that they talk about a lot. And then so this was an adaptation from a book to a film. And there is actually a second book called Me After You, I
think
believe.
so.
And you read the synopsis, and can you just tell us what happens? Because it sounds like...
Oh, it's trash.
A trash show.
It is trash. So the next kind of story arc is that... Sorry, we're just fighting a bug and we just smashed our hands into each other. Okay, so the next story arc is that she never adapts to life after Will. Because she...
So unhealthy, sorry.
She loves him so much that her life has no meaning anymore, basically.
That's a great message.
Yeah, really healthy. And she goes to Paris and she just not happy, and she ends up working in a bar. Like, the same kind of awful situation she was in where she was just working in this cafe, like grinding herself down to the ground and not,
So she's back where she started before she met Will.
worse.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so I think she falls in love with some other guy and all usual soapy stuff. But anyway,
a really risky move to do after you've killed off the main love interest to
Absolutely.
make her fall in love with someone else.
Absolutely. But anyway, it turns out that Will Traynor had a secret love child. And the secret love child somehow finds out about Emilia Clarke's character.
How old is this love child?
I think like teenager-y.
Oh my god, how old is he meant to be in the
Not
story?
that old. Not that old. Anyway, so somehow this love child finds out about Emilia Clarke. I don't know how, because they were never married. But anyway. And, I hate my mother, I hate my family, my dad abandoned me, la-di-da-di-da, and, just this massive riff-raff messy kid. And Emilia Clarke falls in the position, or not Emilia Clarke, the character from the book, Lou, falls in this position of, instead of looking after Will Traynor, she's looking after Will Traynor's kid. And she's just as marginalised, but worse.
That's awful, because it puts any goodwill that is put from the first movie or book, really blows up all of those kind of, I guess, positive parts of the movie that you could say, well, at least it had this.
But all the positive life lessons she learnt about her own strength and her own, she's just a really lovely character. I could see myself being friends with this awesome woman. All of that she forgets, and she just I'll just look after my ex-lover's child and not...
Because women sacrifice themselves.
Absolutely. That's the whole idea.
Ugh.
I don't like it. I mean, this is just me from... I read a synopsis of the book, I read a couple of book reviews, and no one liked it.
Yeah. Well, that's what you get for, trying to capitalise. I mean, maybe the author had no choice and her publisher made her write a sequel, but...
Or you know what? You can write a book about whatever you like. You can. You really can. But I just think it was a damn shame that she didn't allow this character to keep growing. I mean, realistically, it is quite possible that a character in her position would put herself back in that position.
It should have just been the sequel should have been P.S. I Love You.
Yes.
Remember that movie?
I love that
Gerard
movie.
Butler? The sequel should have been P.S. I Love You.
Oh.
Can you imagine how much better that would have been?
Yes, well, she gets left a letter from him that she writes before he dies about, how he wants her to be the amazing, independent, funny woman she is, and to go live her life, and that she has enough money now she can go to uni. And
so does that mean she doesn't end up like that in the book?
No.
How on earth is that? What was that author thinking? That you've got to make a happily ever after.
Well, she just ignores the advice and just is miserable, even though she pretty much promises and changes her perception of the world.
Golly gosh.
It's very tragic all around.
Yeah.
And Will Traynor's parents, after he ended his life by euthanasia, get divorced and never talk again.
That does happen, though.
I know, but that was the only good thing about the sequel. That it was realistic about how the parents handled it.
So I guess I should point out that how it shows specifically that he has chronic pain in the movie. It actually mentions the words nerve pain.
Yes.
That he gets nerve pain.
Yes.
So nerve pain is just it's a pain that both Georgia and I experience.
Yeah.
Like we explained in our first episode, it's like your brain signals being like, you're in pain, when
and there
in fact
is
you're
nothing
not.
wrong.
There's no injury, there's no knife stabbing into you.
But it feels like a knife.
Yeah. So for that to actually be in a movie, I was a bit like, wait, what? I'm impressed. Good work,
I know.
movie. So it does mention pain, and it does show him in pain. So, I don't know, my takeaway from it is that it is still a really awful message, but if you watch it as a nice rom-com, up until the point where he wants to die, it's still a good rom-com.
I feel like it allows an open dialogue about euthanasia, which I think is a very important topic, but it doesn't handle it in a respectful way.
And I think they could have picked a we've already had the euthanasia movies, you know?
Yes. I don't know, part of me is angry about it because it's really horrible because it sends the message that brain injury means you're useless, but also, patients do have the right to make their choices. I don't know, I'm so mixed on it.
I guess I wish, and like you said, this might not be, the best idea, but I wish that they'd done that with a character who had a terminal illness, because his paralysis was not increasing or becoming...
Yeah.
I suppose terminal.
Yeah, and I get that.
Maybe it did up until the point where he got sick, but...
He was having lots of complications, but my issue is also, okay, sure, it's a really bad implication for people in his positions who don't want to end their lives, but do we have the ability as a society to take away someone's, you know, independence in choosing the direction of their lives? Like, I don't know where I stand on euthanasia yet. But part of me goes...
You mean like voluntary euthanasia?
Yeah, and part of me goes, well, do I have the right to say that it was wrong?
When it's this fictional character's choice?
Yeah. But what situations...
I think we can say, sure, he could do whatever he wanted, but as a message...
It was a horrible message, too.
Like, it would be great if, basically, so the oldest movie that we didn't really touch on, because honestly, I didn't watch it, and I was kind of like, God, I feel like I've seen this type of movie 20 times, was Theory of Flight with Kenneth Branagh and Helena Bonham Carter.
Yeah.
And she plays a person, I think with MS, who she wants to do something before she dies.
Yeah.
Okay. So this idea that we needed to have a character who was dying with a extreme disability, it would be nice if we had a movie how they just fell in love and that was the end of the story.
I know.
And it wasn't, and then he died.
I want that movie.
Yeah.
Because that movie happens in real life all the time.
Yeah, so someone needs to go out and make that movie.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably enough people with disabilities and chronic pain for people to want to demand that movie. Like, I've seen recently, there's been maybe 2 or 3 movies about people with autism that actually were good.
Yeah.
Not that silly Netflix series, but not Atypical. But
oh my
there's been
God,
a few
that
movies,
was such a mess.
But there were a few movies that have actually done it well because they started to collaborate with people with these disabilities.
Lived experience is important.
Yeah, so I feel like, you know, the demand is there, and maybe someone... Oh, what if someone on YouTube made like a remix of Me Before You without all the death part? Perfect rom-com.
Absolutely.
So I would say if you were like really like a stickler and like not going to watch it, but you want to watch like a nice rom-com, just give like half the movie a go.
Can I just say there's this scene that like tugs at my inner romantic, and I just, oh, so romantic. There's this scene where they're at his ex-girlfriend's wedding, and his ex-girlfriend and him don't end on good terms, and there's just a relationship breakdown over communication and her wanting to be there and him not wanting her. It was just human. We can't see eye to eye, and she falls in love with his best friend and they go and get married. And Lou, this character that comes into his life, they fall in love with each other. They go to this wedding together, and there is this beautiful scene that they're both pretty drunk, and she sits on his lap, and they go on the dance floor and they just twirl around, and they just, you know, you see them falling in love and having that romantic experience with the wheelchair. Yeah. And the wheelchair is not a handicap to them having a romantic experience. Mm-hmm. It doesn't stop them from having romance. It doesn't stop them from being in love. It's not the main feature. And I just enjoyed that scene. And, you know, she makes a comment saying, you know, oh, let's give them a reason to stare.
Yeah.
Because she knows in society that someone in a wheelchair doing a normal thing like falling in love and dancing is dramatic and like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So yeah, it did have some positives, but I think the negative kind of outweighed it, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a thumbs down.
Thumbs down. What say you, Margaret? That's a David and Margaret at the movies reference for anyone who's Australian. They're really good movie reviewers.
Who are we giving thumbs up? We're giving Coronation Street a thumbs up.
Yeah.
What about Neighbours?
Thumbs up from what we've heard.
Yeah, okay. House, thumbs down.
Thumbs to the side.
Thumbs to the side.
Comsy comsa. Grey's Anatomy.
I can't give a thumbs. I don't know enough.
Thumbs to the side, I guess.
Yeah.
Nurse Jackie.
I don't know.
Thumbs down. It seemed like it was just,
okay,
let's have an addiction to painkillers
fair
show.
Enough. Thumbs down.
Cake.
Thumbs up.
It's a bleak movie. Like, get ready to sob your heart out.
I sobbed.
Do you not watch it alone? I watched it alone.
I watched it alone. It was a dumb idea. I finished Me Before You alone, and that was, why?
Yeah, that's sad too. But, like, it's good to chuckle at it
and
together.
Me Before You, thumbs down.
So we've got some listener submissions. We put a call out asking you to talk about your favourite movie or TV characters that have chronic pain. And we were nicely surprised. There was a couple that we didn't even know existed. Hey, Emma.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I'm probably not going to go watch those TV shows, but it's cool to know those characters are out there.
They exist.
Yeah, I'm not going to go watch Bones, but...
I did, and then it just took too long for the main characters. Spoilers.
To bone.
Yeah, to bone, on Bones.
But you don't want them to, because then that ruins the whole point of the show.
Because it's all about
Yeah.
boning
Did that
instead
not-
of the bones.
Well, no, because you never want your two main love interests to get together. That ruins the tension.
It does.
That's
It's like Castle.
Is that what happened in Castle as well? That's what happened on, this is going back. That's what happened on...
Anyways.
That's what happened... No, I need to tell everyone that that's
Okay.
what's happened on Smallville as well. It was a Superman, like, teenage TV show.
I know, I remember it.
Yeah, they did that.
You watched it?
Yeah, they finally got Clark and Lana together and it ruined the show.
Okay. Well, we bring up bones because apparently Jack Hodgkins has chronic pain.
Yeah, so her foggy mind, thank you for writing in.
Yeah.
You said that he had an accident in one of the later seasons and is wheelchair bound, and he goes through a bit of a personality change due to the pain and psychological trauma. So it sounds like, I feel like again we sort of noticed that TV has more of a better, there's more time to kind of develop characters and really show their chronic pain journeys. So that's pretty cool that Bones did that.
Yeah.
What were some of the others?
Sorry, I apologise guys, I'm a bit croaky today. Bear with me. I think that was everything on that post. Oh, Grace and Frankie as well. They're two older women who find themselves being closer in each other's lives, and there's apparently a scene where they end up stuck on the floor, or an episode.
Mm-hmm.
An episode that they're on the floor and they can't get up because of the pain.
I think it's because of rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah, rheumatoid arthritis. And I've done that. Like, there's been times that I've just had to lie on the floor at uni and people are like, do you want help up? And I'm like, no.
The floor is the better choice.
Leave me here.
Oh gosh. And that was suggested by Butterfly Thrives. Thank you, Butterfly Thrives. These are Instagram names, by the way.
Yeah.
It isn't some hippie who called their child Butterfly Thrives. Honestly, most people sort of talk to us about the fact that they could only also think of House, who we mentioned earlier. And there were quite a few comments and good discussions about House and his, like, snarky, negative sort of attitude and whether that's from the chronic pain or not.
Well, her foggy mind commented saying, I love him and the show. I do as well. Though I think it's important to remember that not all of his behaviour mannerisms can be blamed on pain. He's also a self-centred and emotionally disturbed person. Absolutely.
So he would have been like that before the pain?
I reckon he was, because he blamed his partner at the time for giving him life-saving surgery.
Yeah.
Like, because it gave him pain, and he sounds like he was always a bit of a god figure to himself.
Quite an egotistical person.
Yeah, I still love him though. Problematic fave. And then Miss Ali Roberts said, sometimes I think people assume all of our cranky characteristics or moments have to do with coping with our symptoms, as addressed above, by her foggy mind. I think people forget that we are entitled to normal cranky and sad and emotional moments. We're all human and easily get fractured, but sometimes us getting cranky at something someone has done is purely that, not some deeply hidden, confused cycle of suppressed frustration from our pain or other symptoms. We're allowed to be human. And watching the show, I kept falling into the trap that thinking that House was just so angry about the pain and using that as a tool, but sometimes the people are frustrating and normal anger is warranted. Not sure if that made sense. Absolutely makes sense.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So thank you to, the rest of the commenters who mentioned House. I think there was Emma, Seamstress Joe, Lionel, and I think maybe one other person. So really thank you everyone for sending in your comments. It was great to hear how much we all love House. That concludes our episode on Tears with Chronic Pain. So we will have, possibly, if there's interest, episodes on fiction, so novels that have characters with chronic pain, and then maybe an episode about celebrities, because there's quite a number of them that are coming out and talking about their own illnesses and how it impacts their
I would
lives.
like to do that episode.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening, reviewing, subscribing. It would mean so much to us if in iTunes, Apple Podcasts, you could subscribe to our podcast.
And leave us a review.
Leave us a review. We would love that. We have an Instagram and a Facebook under Have You Tried Yoga Podcast.
Yeah. I was thinking the other day that we actually don't have a bit of a catchphrase.
We don't. We need
And
one.
I think it needs to be some kind of inside joke that just sticks around a lot.
Yeah.
And right now, the funniest thing that we've said on our podcast is stick a coffee enema up your butt. And I don't want that to be
I feel
our
like
tagline.
that'd be very confusing. Like, stick
Stick
a coffee enema up your butt.
And don't get murdered. So I don't think it's
Okay, I'm gonna be like tangential. Emma and I saw My Favorite Murder. You might have seen it on our social media, and we still haven't gotten over how good it was.
It was really excellent. So they came to Australia, to Brisbane, which is pretty rad.
Anyway, we want a catchphrase because there are idols and they have one.
Well, honestly, most podcasts I listen to have some kind of catchphrase.
Or like a nice final like statement.
I just don't know if anything we've said has really rolled off the tongue. Maybe it's the way we speak.
We're just really boring.
No, I don't know. I think we just mispronounce stuff all the time. Or at least I do.
Well, I'll just say I'm wishing you spoons in a good week.
Okay.
I guess.
I don't know else. I can't think of anything good to end on.
No, like, be a good human.
Yeah.
We'd like that.
Be a good human.
Don't offer bad advice to people who don't want to hear it.
I think that's pretty good.
And keep being you. Like,
Yeah.
be proud of who you are, because I think that's a good idea. Like,
yeah,
doesn't matter
It's
what your
alright.
body's able to do. Like, you're allowed to be proud of yourself.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
I mean,
could our catchphrase be, have you tried yoga?
no, I haven't tried yoga. Have you?
Yeah, like once or twice. Actually, someone recommended me a new type of yoga to try, and I was like,
Computer says no.
Maybe not really.
Well, I'll finish with that. I'm Georgia.
I'm Fred.
And have you tried yoga?
Bye.
That's when good neighbors become good.